Were you a Tide family? Were you a Gain family? Did your mom use Ivory soap? And then, when you were a kid, you started buying over Ivory soap for your kids, or Johnson, and Johnson baby oil, or whatever that is. It's like, if you can make that connection and instill the ethos of your brand into your customer, why would you ever leave that to a chatbot? That's all I can say.
Hey there, folks. It's Juntae DeLane, and boy, we have a treat for you today on the Brand Behavior Podcast. We're diving in headfirst into the world of marketing funnels. You know, those magical pathways that turn curious browsers into loyal customers. And trust me, we've got a dream team on the show today to guide us through this maze. First up, we have Philip VanDusen. Philip is the head honcho at Ferrell Brand Design. He has been in the trenches with Fortune 500 companies for over 2 decades. Philip, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Great to have you. And then there is Anand Vatsya. He is the growth guru behind Story Lane. This guy lives and breathes conversion rate optimization, funnel design, especially for B2B SaaS folks out there. Anand, how are you?
Doing great as well. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, great to have you. Okay, so now let me tell you, the world of marketing funnels is changing faster than ever. Remember when we thought about a simple A to B journey was enough, but those days are gone, my friend. We're talking about multi-touch point, omni-channel, digital branding experiences. Now, that's what it's all about. And when you think about AI and machine learning and putting those things into the mix, it's like we've gone from checkers to 3D chess overnight. But don't worry, that's why I brought the big guns. These wizards are going to help us navigate this brave new world of marketing funnels. They're going to be sharing their secret sauce, their hard-won wisdom, and maybe even a few war stories along the way. So buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey through an anatomy of effective funnels, the magic of personalization, the power of AI, and so much more. And trust me, by the end of this episode, you'll be looking at your marketing funnel in a whole new light. So if you're ready to dive in, let's get this funnel party started. So I'm going to throw up a softball question to you, Philip. In your experience working with major brands, what are the key components of a successful marketing funnel, and how have you seen these change over the years?
Yeah, I think that what your comment about the omni-channel aspect of it is what's really important right now, is that it used to be, like you said, it used to be kind of like radio, TV, and outdoor. It was like that's where the brand awareness happened, and the path to purchase was pretty straightforward. And that has undergone such a massive kind of evolution and tsunami of change over the last decade. And, I'm also interested, as you say, to kind of get into the conversation about what the curveball that AI has thrown into this whole mix. But I think, it's difficult for larger companies to really personalize, unless you're talking about companies like, Netflix or whatever, who can kind of parse your viewing habits or your consumption habits and then serve you up more of what it is that you want, like TikTok does, right? Feeds you more of the crack that you're to do. And so, but I think that for small to medium-sized businesses and entrepreneurs and startups, that sort of personalization is a lot easier to accomplish, just because you can clearly articulate what your brand value proposition is and get that across all of your different channels in a very similar way. And it's much more difficult for larger companies because they have to be everything to everybody. And personalization, unless you're just talking about the consumption of the product or service, is very difficult to achieve. But for smaller businesses, actually in the marketing activity, the emails, the social media posts, that's a lot easier to accomplish.
Yeah, and I know you're a brand guy. You've worked with many different brands. From a branding perspective, having consumers go through a funnel, how do you think that impacts the brand engagement or communication going through that funnel from savvy customers who may understand that if they submit their information, they're gonna get a bunch of email or text message communication being sent to them. How do you think that impacts the brand?
The thing about branding and brand strategy that is 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 interesting is that brand strategy and branding are exactly the same, whether you're doing it for an individual person or whether you're doing it for British Petroleum and Chevron or Exxon. It's just a question of scale. And so the funnel in terms of becoming aware of a brand and then learning about its products and emotional benefits and functional benefits, and then learning to kind of incorporate the ethos and the mission and the purpose of the brand in a deeper emotional level. All of those sorts of things happen whether you're branding a person or an entrepreneur or a startup, or whether you're doing it to a Fortune 500. I think the difficult thing is the trust level. And people have a deep distrust of larger corporations now. And it's a lot more difficult for corporations to put a human face on themselves and establish a deeper emotional connection with their customer base. And that's where I think that they are at a real disadvantage, and where smaller companies and startups have a real leg up is because they can make an emotional connection and communicate how they're going to solve a problem and make people feel better and win at life in a much more kind of direct and honest way. The other piece of it is that they're able to put a true human face on your brand, and it's a lot harder to do that as a P&G or a Safeway or a Netflix. There are certain corporations that have done that well, like Apple with Steve Jobs, or Richard Branson and Virgin, or Elon Musk, love him or hate him, and with Tesla. But that's one place where I think that smaller companies have the leg up, is that the human connection piece of it. So, but to circle back to your point, in terms of branding and brand strategy, it's just a question of scale.
Yeah. And it seems like having a funnel would help with scale, right? And communicating and engaging with your target audience in different segments within your audience. But you also mentioned that human connection, right? So, Anand, I want to ask this next question for you regarding that human connection and building a funnel, mapping out a customer journey that still allows for seemingly a human connection or more personalized experience when building out that customer funnel. What is your approach to mapping out a customer funnel that has some of these components of a human connection?
Right. So I couldn't agree more with what Philip said, right, regarding the trust and the human connection bit. If you guys know about Toby, he's the Shopify CEO, right? He has this concept called trust battery, and he applies this to humans basically. Of course, he has to deal with a lot of humans, but then I think we can apply the same thing to brands today. And I completely agree with Philip that larger corporates, larger enterprises have it much harder to do that, to move fastly today, right? As opposed to smaller companies who can just go on LinkedIn and build a personal brand, right, for their CEO, for their company, right? And it's so much easy to do that. And I even don't recommend, that companies should try to talk about their product, their features, anything during the awareness stage, for example. So we look at typically awareness, consideration, decision, like a typical funnel, right? And I think people just overcomplicate it today, right? So, but then if you want to keep your brand human, just don't talk about your product too much. Just try to talk about how you are a great, let's say, thought leader in that category, right? In that space where you are operating. As you opened this, Juntai, with saying that how this is not linear today, right? The marketing funnel is not linear today at all. It's not even predictable. Along with the linearity that has gone away, the predictability that a prospect can move, the way you want inside your funnel, in a way that does not happen today. And especially something that we are seeing a lot with low lift software. Think of, let's say, Clay, Loom, Notion, right? These kind of software, the majority of the purchase is happening on social. social selling has become so prominent today that buyers are not really, waiting for your emails or your cold calls to make the purchase. They are doing this inside closed social communities. They are doing it on LinkedIn, asking their, connects that, hey, what is this next, great, which is what, we were discussing about before we started this podcast, right? About the next best, like, recording software, like, the event software, right? So I think smaller brands have it much more easier to keep it human. And yes, they should look at primarily just doing a bit of thought leadership, a bit of talking about how their expertise is in this field without going too deep inside the product. That can happen in the decision stage when there is like much more information, when the buyer is already seated at the table, that okay, now tell me what are you all about, right? But before that, I think it's just keep it like, from a 30,000 point of view. Keep it simple, keep it straightforward. Don't try to confuse your buyers.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. It seems like nowadays the linear funnel has just become extinct. I think when customers are introduced to a brand, they may have that brand already on their short list, but they may consume content that's at the quote unquote top of the funnel, right? When they may not need that information, right? Or they go to other channels in order to check out more information about that business. So they may see an ad, and instead of clicking through to the ad, they may go to their social media account. They may Google search them to find out more information about the company, and then go back to their website. I mean, we've actually found that to be the case. There's a lot of um, uh, um, purchases that come directly through the website, although we run ad campaigns as an example for clients. And so that's something that I think is critical. So when you talk about, being able to understand how your customers may come in at different points of your funnel, quote unquote. You have to have communication, engagements, and so on that is prepared to meet them where they are. And I think that is really where that human connection comes into play, right? So I think that's a great example there. And really what it boils down to is like personalization, right? Everyone wants to be, to have personalized communication, to have personalized services to them. I mean, it's really driving the landscape. And I think personalization is not just, a buzzword, it's an expectation, right? Consumers want experiences that are tailored to their preferences. And the key is, I believe, with these funnels is trying to deliver personalization at scale, right? And there you have to obviously leverage the latest technology in order to do that. So give me some examples of some technology that you guys have either used or have heard of that would help to create a funnel and deliver personalization at scale.
Well, one of the things that I use the most, and with my clients as well, is email. I mean, email is still king, and it's one of the places where you can create personalization and segmenting and bucket communication as clearly and succinctly as probably is at all even possible within the marketing sphere right now. It's the only place where we really have direct one-on-one communication with our prospective customers. I think one of the things that you said, Juntae, is really important, which is that it's kind of like everything all at once, everything everywhere all at once. It's like that movie, right? It's like there's no real linear funnel anymore. It's like to a certain extent, everybody's in their own self-directed funnel and they're dropping in at different points in the process. So we as marketers can't assume that we're shepherding people through this very kind of specific, segment and staged funnel, because to a certain extent, funnels kind of don't exist in a way. And the other thing you said, Juntae, which I thought was great, is kind of like the meet me where I am aspect of it. It's like some people may come into this funnel with a full knowledge of the functional benefits of your product, the emotion, and feel the emotional benefits of your product. And they may be at a stage where they just want you to give them some value for free before they can make the decision to actually start paying for something. And I think that that's one of the big changes. And the one place that you can manage that most effectively is an email, because if you can get people to click on something or click on a series of things through emails, you can create very specific segments of what they're interested in and then deliver very targeted content to them through email. And that's a much easier lift in terms of getting someone farther down the pipeline, in terms of being closer to buy, than almost any other area. Because otherwise, you're just throwing content up on the walls, right? And just
Right.
hoping the right person comes across it at the right moment in their own personal journey. And so that's one of the challenges we have as marketers, is to a certain extent, we've got to serve up content that serves every aspect of the funnel and try to hope that people are hitting it at the time when they need to hit it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I align that with if you are looking to buy a car, right? If you're looking to buy a car, whether it's new or used, you're not going to go into the dealership green, not knowing anything about your purchase, what you're looking for. You're probably going to research the type of car, your different options, and you're going to go into that dealership pretty much educated on the direction you want to go, right? And so that's what I think how marketers should think when developing a funnel, and content that is used within that funnel is to be aware of consumers that are savvier, consumers that have done their research in other channels, so that you can speak directly to them, and like we mentioned earlier, meet them where they are. Anand, I know you have experience building out funnels for B2B. Give me some key differences with funnels from a B2B perspective. And I know, Philip, you have worked with some B2C major brands as well. Give me the differences, the nuances between the B2B funnel and the B2C funnel.
I would say that, a B2B funnel is, I think, a bit more difficult to build out. And the reason for that is uh, you are not like monitoring, like the sample size there is like much more smaller as compared to for a B2C, right? I mean, if let's say you compare even a Netflix versus, let's say, a Salesforce, for example, right? Netflix will have far more users, and even though Salesforce will have a lot of company accounts, but then you cannot personalize basis on the company. It's always a human level personalization that happens, right? So, which is where I feel that personalization becomes a little bit easier because of the sample size for B2C companies. But then again, I feel that the conversations that happen, basis which you can personalize your, I would go back to Philip's example, that emails, for example, right? That you can do a bit more easily for B2B, given that most of the conversations are limited to, let's say, LinkedIn, a bit of it maybe to Twitter as well, right? But those are the limitations to it. And I can give you an example, right? So, for example, we do a lot of outbound as well, and we employ a couple of AI SDR tools. Like there are AI SDR tools that can write emails for you, and they do great, right? But the thing where they strike a ball is that they can take into account where a particular person's like conversation that is happening across the internet, be it LinkedIn, be it like closed communities. I don't know how they do it, but then they can bring that context inside that email. So let's say if Junta, you received an email saying that how was your conversation last week with Philip and Anand, and that when you read that, you feel that okay, this person, this company actually knows about me. Now that's an AI that's doing that job, right? But then there is some kind of relevancy that comes in there. There's some kind of personalization that comes in there. So I think that's like one of the key differences there, that when you want to personalize, I think it's a little bit difficult for B2B companies. But at the same time, if you can get that data, let's say if an AI can help you get that data from the different sources, then yes, it can become like easier for you if you employ the right kind of tools. And there are many tools that can, make you astray on this path. But then yeah, you have to figure out the right kind of tools and the right kind of workflows to make it work for you.
Yeah, I kind of have a bone to pick, if you will, with a lot of B2B marketers and really B2B companies overall. And I say that because it seems as though many B2B communications, they don't really want to personalize their messages. It seems like they don't want to either offend someone or a segment of people. They don't want to get so personalized where they completely and alienate a segment in their target audience. But you find B to B2C is really looking to hone in on the personalization and do exact opposite of what B2B is looking to do. But Philip, I know
Right.
you have some insight on this as well.
Yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
think that's a really, really interesting point. And when you were talking, I kept thinking about what I like to call the ick factor, which is when you get approached by some sort of either B2B person or someone who's looking to build you know, explore an opportunity or build a relationship with you in a B2B standpoint, and they might have learned a lot of stuff about you or done their research, and watched what you were clicking on in their emails and paid attention to where you were surfing on their website. And when they get, like, on LinkedIn, this happened to me just last week. It's like someone DM'd me on LinkedIn and said, "Oh, I see you went and checked out our website and blah 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 page, and I just wanted to talk to you about." And I was just like, "Whoa." I just felt like it felt very violating, like someone had been in my apartment, And I just thought, there's a very kind of there's a very delicate balance between understanding the intent, someone's intent or their interest, and then making them feel like they're being watched. Because it's like when you're buying a car analogy is perfect. It's like you may do all this research in your world, but as soon as you go on that car lot and must start walking around, you're being watched. And that's one of those things where it's just like it's got this creepy factor to it. And so I think that there's a level of distance also that you have to establish and maintain a respectable distance to to um, to make sure that that connection can be made and that it's one that's welcomed.
Yeah. And what you thought
I'll
about
just
that?
add one thing. I'll just latch on to the word that Philip mentioned regarding intent, right? Now, if you talk to B2B marketers, the problem there is a lot of people still feel that personalization is equal to, hey, your first name and that's done. Now, that's not how personalization works, right? I mean, that intent bit that Philip mentioned, right? That needs to really come into the picture. And I completely agree with what he said, right? It should not feel that, you are just, ramping on somebody's door, like, without like actually having any intent, any context there. So, and there are ways to do that, right? There are ways that B2B marketers can personalize their communications basis the intent. Do not shoot in the dark. Get that intent data, get that, yeah, like do that effort, to get those, get that context inside your emails, and then send it out. Even if people are not ready to buy, they will feel happy that you have researched them. They about the context they are in right now, right? So I think that's very much important. But then that intent game is still, I think it's at a very nascent stage today. And I think with the onset of tools like, I think Clay, I think that's doing a great job at it. I cannot live without Clay, right? So I think in a few years, people will be there where intent data is something they'll be, relying more and more on as they move forward.
But how do we talk about personalization data, right? And it goes beyond just saying, hey, first name, right? And first name being like a dynamic tag that replaces the name on any name in your database, so to speak. But how do we get additional information? I feel like that's the missing piece. We talk about personalization, but how do we get more information on our target audience in order to personalize the communication? Any insight there?
Well, I've done a lot of user research or consumer research in my career. When I was working on the agency side, I worked with a lot of CPG companies. And when I was at PepsiCo, I was a CPG company and I was managing Lay's potato chips, which is the biggest food brand in the world. And, Fritos and Cheetos and Tostitos and all those good for you foods. And we did a boatload of consumer research where we would get people in a room in a focus group and we would introduce them to a particular product. And when you do that, you get a real clear understanding from a human level of what people are feeling, what their emotional needs are, how they react to a product, how they actually use a product. I remember this one user research project I did for Diamond Foods. We were doing, it was like popcorn kernels that come in bulk, right? So you just put them in a popcorn popper maker thing. And we were talking to the people in the focus group, and we found out that a lot of them, they use those kernels because they can then flavor them or personalize them on their own. They add caramel or they add garlic powder or they add all sorts of different things and they make that popcorn their own. And they like the power that comes with their ability to personalize this snack that they're gonna have. And we never would have known that unless we had gone in there and asked them. And so I think that that's one place where a lot of companies are just completely in the dark. I talk to big companies all the time that haven't done research in 5 or 6 years, and they are basically operating their marketing departments on assumptions of what their customers want or need, which is a massive, massive mistake. And essentially, you're just like throwing darts at the wall, hoping that you hit the board. So I'm a strong, strong believer in research, and it could be something as easy as a Google form or a Jot form or some sort of data gathering, qualitative research, or it can be focus groups around the world and do really deep quantitative research and do qualitative research with people, and really uncover those emotional need states that people have, because that's what is the true. That's the truth. And there are so many things that we are assuming about people that a lot of times just turn out to be true, or a completely secondary or tertiary need to what it is that really drives their purchase. And so if there's one thing that I would change or put on the top of people's radar in terms of marketing and personalization, it's like, freaking ask people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think when brands large or small tap into their core audience, understand what questions they're asking, and really use other tools outside of even focus groups, but possibly social media, their social media engagements. What are people actually saying on their content? The calls that come into their call centers or their customer service, what questions are people asking? And making sure that you have a structure where information flows to the top, so that each department head is privy to all the concerns that are coming through the different departments from a customer facing standpoint, so that they can optimize their communication, right, and provide more of that personalization in their communication as well, right? I think that's critical and key. I know, Anand, you had something to say about that as well?
Right. So yeah, I think as I said, personalization is something B2B brands they are very limited even today, right? But then there's just one point I want to add, that they need to really think out of the box, really think like, okay, what can I do more to not sound too intrusive, to this person that I'm reaching. And I think B2B does not have that kind of a luxury to go deep into that kind of a consumer research that B2C can do. And it's great actually, we are surrounded by B2C, right? But then for B2B as well, there are enough avenues. So I can give you a couple of examples. For example, for our product, when somebody is trying to sign up for the product, a free user basically, we ask them a few questions during the onboarding flow. That helps you customize the entire experience for that person. When somebody has turned into a customer, you have a support team, you ask them a few questions, they will answer you, and basis that you can take those insights to understand that, okay, how do a certain ICP or how do a certain persona work for your particular product, right? Now these kind of insights need not stay inside those chatbots or those conversation inboxes only, right? Take it out, use AI on top of this to ensure that everybody, your entire GTM functions are having access to this data, and in all of their conversations with customers, prospects, buyers, anywhere, they are using this data. And that is very important today, which I think a lot of companies are doing, of course, but then there's still a lot more adoption that's needed for this.
Absolutely. So let's pivot to talk about artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence and automation have revolutionized the way we approach marketing funnels. We have predictive analytics, we have chatbots, we have dynamic content, which all offer unprecedented opportunities to optimize funnels in real time, right? But with so many options available, it can be overwhelming to know where to start. So let's talk about some practical ways to incorporate AI and automation into your funnel strategy. Anand, so what are some of the most promising applications of machine learning and funnel optimization that you're excited about?
So I think I would mostly talk from an initiative perspective, right? So something that happens a lot in B2B is that content repurposing. So that is something that people really struggle with sometimes, because you have, let's say, a piece of a podcast, for example, that you're doing, and there is you have gotten 30 minutes of content, but then how do you repurpose it to use it in multiple ways in multiple platforms? So that's where AI can come in, that can help you repurpose, that help you add the tonality of each platform that you want to use for, because a LinkedIn's tonality will be very different from how you can communicate on Twitter with that same content, right? So that is something that is really important. The second thing, something that we are trying out today, is that we know that not everybody is great at social, let's say selling, promoting their product. So what we are doing today is that the demo calls that our sales team is having, those demo calls are recorded in a software. We are using AI to go through the transcripts and pick out the use cases that are there and build content around that and get like internal employees to post about it. Now that on the face of it seems like a very straightforward thing to do, but then when you think about it, that the agents are having like calls of 30 minutes, 60 minutes, even more than that, right? And then you are trying to figure out, okay, what is the most relevant piece of information from there? So I think people need to, rather than, I mean, Junta, this is my view, that rather than from a stage wise perspective, people need to think about AI application in marketing funnels from an initiative perspective. Just because you have the capability to use AI in, let's say, your decision stage, for example, you should not just go about doing that. Sometimes it might not make sense, because during those crucial points, sometimes you just need that human touch there. So think from an initiatives perspective wherein you can add that. Blanketly thinking from a stage wise perspective, I'm not sure whether that's the right approach.
That makes sense. And from a creative standpoint, Philip, how do you balance the use of AI-driven content with maintaining authentic brand storytelling within a funnel?
Yeah, the danger of AI right now, anyway, is that it's enough in its infancy that everyone is just jumping on board and just trying to use it without really knowing how to use it yet. I liken it to the first days of like when desktop publishing came around, and suddenly there was Mac Paint and Quark Express, and the industry was freaking out because they thought, oh, the industry is dead. Everyone can do desktop publishing on their own. And then they realized that no, they can't. They have no idea how to do it, and everything's looking like a bad garage sale poster. And so it's kind of the same thing with AI right now. Like everyone's enamored of the tool, and they're putting in some sort of prompt, they're getting something out, and they're thinking it's good enough, and then they post it. The problem with that is that everybody's getting the same input and everyone's getting the same tone of voice out of it. And sometimes, in many cases, the same erroneous information is coming out of it, and they're trusting it and going with it. And I think that the biggest challenge that brands have right now with AI is how are we going to use it and maintain our brand voice? Because I think that brand voice right now is going to be one of the most emerging important trends in terms of importance for companies to get their hands around and really differentiate themselves with. Because AI is going to genericize all of the voice out there in marketing. How are you going to create some sort of a tone of voice in your marketing that feels authentic to your brand, is recognizable to your consumers, and also differentiates you enough from your competition that you stand above them? And a lot of that is going to come from really getting deep into prompt engineering. And I think that a lot of that prompt engineering, in order to get AI to spit out a copy and marketing emails, content that's within your brand voice and authentic to your brand, is going to be one of those things that at the moment we have training wheels on. And there's going to be a lot of practice and a lot of falling off and into the bushes before we really get it together. But that, if there was anything that I would encourage brands to really kind of get in, play around, but also understand the importance of getting good at it fast, is that in terms of using the content that AI is able to produce so easily right now, not trusting it, and making sure that you're massaging it so it's appropriate.
Absolutely. And so now let's pivot to measuring and analyzing funnel performance. Okay. We know that a funnel is only as good as its results, and measuring those results accurately are crucial for ongoing optimizations. But with so many metrics to track, it can be challenging to focus on what truly matters. So, Anand, what key metrics do you focus on when evaluating funnel performance, and how do you use that data to optimize going forward?
So again, Juntai, we look at it from an initiatives perspective mostly. Like, we have a bunch of initiatives that fit into each stage of the funnel, but then we don't look at like the overarching funnel to understand whether it's performing well or not, or if every stage is giving us the required results or not. The reason for that is, marketing also works in cycles a lot of time, right? So not every time you will have everything working to the finest of it, right? And I can give you an example on that. So I think just 6 months back, so we were converting around 17 to 18% of our users who are coming to our website to book a demo for us. And since our close won rates were pretty good, we were getting like a decent amount of revenue out of that. But we thought that if you could just increase that delta, if you could just add like 5% more users on top of it, who can, let's say, who are coming to our website, and if they can book the demo, the resulting ROI would be much, much greater. All we did was we flipped the step one and step two of our demo booking form. Initially, the step one was people would come in, they would first pick a slot, and then in the second step, they will fill in their credentials. We just flipped it. Initially, now when people are coming in, they need to first fill in their credentials and then they book a slot. And what happened because of that is earlier we were not able to catch the drop offs that were happening after people were booking a slot because we did not had any contact details. And that is a very simple optimization if you think about it. And in just 6 months, I think we have improved our conversion rate by around 7 to 8%. And this will only grow little by little, over coming months, right? So, which is why I think it's important to understand that which initiatives you feel can give you much better results. And before anything, create a hypothesis. Every optimization starts with a hypothesis. If you don't have a hypothesis, you cannot even think about working on it. Once you have that, then think about, okay, what can help you reach that hypothesis? What can help that hypothesis to succeed? And then, and of course, like, it's not that always your hypothesis will be proven right, but then you work towards it and see if it is giving you the desired results. Might not be the exact same percentage that you are looking at, even lower than that, but that's also fine as long as you are continuing to improve and continuing to move the needle on your core metrics, on your top line, your bottom line, on a stage wise manner, right? So that's what my suggestion is, that do not look at the entire funnel in the one go, or even the stages in the same go. Look at individual initiatives and try to optimize one thing at a time. Otherwise, you might break if something is already working, if you're looking at a stage wise manner.
That makes sense. And Philip, how do you tie funnel metrics back to overall brand health and long-term customer value?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the dangers of content or inbound marketing these days is that a lot of people are putting a lot of work and effort and resources into posting, right? Everyone wants to get as much content out there as possible. The problem is, and this links back to my consumer insights comment earlier, is that no one's listening. No one's listening to what people are saying afterwards. And so I think the social listening aspect in terms of when you look at your funnel is an overlooked piece of it, in the fact that, yes, you have to put out content. You have to put out a variety of content to see what was really, hitting with people. But then to, look for things that indicate brand perception, brand mentions, testimonials, likes, shares, comments, good and bad, and also look not only on the post itself, but also in adjacent posts that use the same hashtag, or Reddit groups, or YouTube comments that are on a video about that subject. And so you are gauging the sentiment around your brand as you are putting that content out there, because you can look at all the traditional, and then you need to layer that listening, the social listening part, you need to layer that onto and look at your traditional metrics, your click-through rate, your marketing qualified leads, and your sales, obviously, and say, are those two correlating with each other? Are our mentions, testimonials, brand recommendations going down, and is our sales going down as a result? Are they even correlated to each other? Because that's going to tell you a lot about what you're doing, whether it's correct or not.
I agree. And it seems as though as technology continues to evolve and consumer behaviors shift, the landscape of marketing funnels is constantly changing. So staying ahead of these trends is really crucial for maintaining a competitive advantage. So I want to explore what's on the horizon for marketing funnels and how businesses can prepare for the future. Philip, based upon your experience with brand strategy, what emerging trends do you see shaping the future of marketing funnels?
I think that connecting on an emotional level is more important than ever because everyone understands a product's function, its benefits, what the problem it is it's going to solve for you. But the question is how that once that problem is solved is what's it going to make you feel? And tapping into that is where brands live or die. That's where the Goliaths of brands are made, is when you move up that brand pyramid, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, from the basic product attributes and the product benefits, and you move up from the emotional and you get into the brand personality, the brand essence, those deeper emotional resonant aspects of a brand where you say Coca-Cola or you say Ford or you say Apple and people feel that in their heart. And so moving up in terms of the sort of journey that you're taking people on, so it's as intentional to get people to an emotional place with your brand than just a product benefit place in your brand. And so being able to communicate what is the problem that people have, but what does that problem make them feel like? Because once that problem is solved, that emotion is going to change. And if you can communicate to them what that emotion is and what it's going to feel like, that's what's going to sell your product, not the description of the benefit.
Yep. And Anand, how do you think the increasing focus on privacy and data protection will ultimately impact funnel strategies for the future?
I mean, it's already happening these days, right? Don't you think,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we are like, for example, we employ like today website anonymization, like de-anonymization software, and that is something that you can do in the US, but you cannot do it in the Europe, right? Because the rules are stricter there, right? So, which is why I feel that privacy, of course, you will have to keep an eye on that, but then at the same time, so a lot of when you're starting using AI, a lot of it comes under the ambit of whether you are trying to breach the privacy concerns, like when you are trying to reach out to people with different mediums, with different on different channels, right? So I would say people should not be scared about using AI, but then again, yes, try to maintain a human voice and try to not be too intrusive. Keep in mind that people might not always be looking for your solution. So that is a very small, brief understanding of what I have with respect to privacy. I do not have a lot of comments on privacy because that is something that I have not worked on a lot. But then this is what I feel is what people should keep in mind.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That makes total sense. All right, folks. Now it's time for our bad, bold, or brilliant segment. We've got some juicy trends on AI and marketing to chew on. So let's dive right in. All right. So I'm going to give you guys three examinations, and I want to get your opinion about the examination, if it's bad, bold, or brilliant. So first up, we've got AI powered personalization in e-commerce. Okay. Now, who hasn't fallen down the Amazon rabbit hole? We all, I'm sure, have. You go for a toothbrush, come out with a flamingo pool float that you never knew you needed, and
Yep.
that's AI working its magic, right? And that's just not on Amazon, but also on Sephora and Stitch Fix. They're jumping in on this bandwagon as well, with virtual try-ons and personalized style recommendations and so on. So, what do we think? Is this level of personalization a brilliant innovation, or is it a bit too Big Brother?
I think it's brilliant. I mean, I absolutely. And because when it happens to me, for the most part, I love it. The only thing I don't love is when I look at something and then it shows up in my banner ads on every single website that I go to. The whole cookie tracking thing, that's the one thing that creeps me out and kind of pisses me off. But when I go onto Netflix and it's suggesting things for me, or when I go onto Amazon and it's suggesting things for me, I find that actually brilliant because it makes it easier for me. And it also is more entertaining as a shopping experience for me. How about you, Anand?
Right. Even I agree, that this is brilliant. But then, yes, there is, of course, some caveat to that because these things, these technologies are not foolproof. They're not 100% each of the time, right? So let's say if basis my consumption patterns, you're not able to figure out what I would need on a monthly basis. talking about Amazon here, right? And you are thinking that I am a, let's say, 60-year-old male, and I would need something different than, let's say, what a 30-year-old male would need, right? Then that's not the right use of your own personalization technology. So I think companies need to still work a lot there. They are probably 70% there, okay? But then I feel there's still a lot of work where people can actually go out and say that, yes, I love this technology and I would pay extra to keep this for myself.
Yeah. And
I'm going to stick one more thing on there,
sure.
Juntae, and that is that the one thing that personalization does that's in the bad category, I think, is that it really cuts down on discovery or accidental discovery. And, when we were living in a physical retail world, you would go into a store and you would think, oh, I'm going to get a pair of jeans, right? And then you come out with like a hat and a scarf and, a cool new backpack because you walked by it, you thought it was awesome, and you picked it up. And so there's this level of discovery which makes shopping fun too. And I think that if things get too personalized or too targeted, it takes away that random aspect, which is what makes shopping an interesting thing to do.
A
I
more human,
agree.
Or
Yeah,
what?
no.
a more human thing to do, right?
Yeah,
More human
yeah,
thing. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. No, I agree totally. I would say um, it's brilliant until it's not,
Yeah.
right? And and the reason why I say that is because you can go shopping. Let's say, for example, for your wife, and you are looking for some high heeled shoes, right? And
You're a
now all of a
brave
sudden,
man if you're going shopping for your wife for high heel shoes, because I would never do that.
I'm just using this as an example.
Good luck with
So,
that.
but then the problem here is now you're going to get served with a bunch of ads for women
Yes.
clothing,
Oh
apparel,
my
and so
God,
on,
I
right?
know.
And so that's where I believe it's brilliant until it's not. But I think I have to give kudos to Instagram. I believe they recently implemented the ability for users to reset their algorithm.
Oh,
And
really?
so they can go in the back end and reset their algorithm in case they've experienced something similar, right? Where they have content or advertisements on things that don't directly apply to them. All right.
Okay. So basically, a new mechanism to spend more time inside their app. Brilliant.
That's pretty much, it's all about business there.
Yeah.
All right. So, gentlemen, next on the chopping block, we have automated email marketing for better engagement. So we're talking AI that knows when you're most likely to open an email and what kind of subject line gets you clicking. The companies like MailChimp and HubSpot are all over this. But here's the $1 million question. Is this the secret sauce for email marketing success, or are we risking turning into glorified spam bots? What are your thoughts?
I would say I think it's brilliant. This was very much needed because when there's a lot of human intervention that happens in emails, right? So emails is one thing that I believe that it can be completely automated, it can be completely overtaken by AI, and AI will do a good job because it can pull in the required additional context that you need to make it sound more human. And that is something manually you will never be able to do. And today I think in such a fast paced world, right, you do not have time that you need to experiment with five different email copies for a certain use case. You do not have that much time. Let AI do that job, let AI pull that context, and let AI personalize it for your audience. And we personally have seen much, much better open response rates out of that. So I would say it's brilliant and it should stay like that and probably improve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I think we've been A/B testing subject lines forever, and it's just basically asking a machine to A/B test 100,000 of them rather than just two. And I for one have been using it that way for the last couple of years. I've been using AI to help suggest, YouTube video headlines or titles. And I use TubeBuddy, and you can use vidIQ and these other things that basically run AI algorithms on the popularity of certain terms or words or organization of what word comes first. And it's done nothing but benefit my content viewership, and I know that it's done nothing but benefit my open rates. That's for absolutely sure on my emails. So I give it a big thumbs up.
Yeah. I'm going to go with a similar answer that I had for the first examination, and it's brilliant until it's not. And here's why I say that. I think that sometimes marketers may have a great subject line, but it's not connected to the body of the message. And when there's a disconnect there, it feels like it is spammy because now, oh, you got me to open the message and now it's, you're selling some trinkets, right? And so that's a letdown there. And so I align that with even paid media as you have an ad and you ultimately want that ad to resemble what people land on for the landing page, right? There has to be some connection there. So I do think that, using AI to try to determine what subject line works best is a great idea. We just have to make sure as marketers that that subject line is truly connected to the body of the message.
Yeah. Which is
Completely
why I
agree.
think automate the entire thing, maybe not just do one part of it. Otherwise, that can actually result in what you are saying, Juntai. So yeah, maybe give the whole thing to them.
And you cannot take the human out of it. I hate to say
Yes.
it, but you just can't because, I mean, that's where the nuance happens in tone of voice. And if you are leaving it up to, push this, through the subject line machine and then push the body of the email through a different machine, of course the two aren't going to align and people are going to feel like a bait and switch happened.
Right.
And so we definitely don't want to do that. But I'm personally, because I'm a copy guy, is that I'm all for like reviewing everything that it spits out to
Yes.
make sure that it's brand voice appropriate and that it's got that human level
Yes.
connection to it.
That's
Yes.
right.
Always review. Yes.
Always
Always.
review. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. All right. Last but not least, let's talk about our AI friends, the chatbots. Right. These digital assistants are popping up everywhere from your favorite online shop to your bank's website. Salesforce Einstein AI is leading the charge here, but let's be real. How many of us have wanted to throw our computers out the window after a frustrating chatbot experience? Are these AI helpers streamlining customer service, or are they just adding another layer of frustration between customers and real human help? What are your thoughts?
I'll go first on this one. I
Sure.
freaking hate them. I hate them upside down and sideways. And that this is also a place where I think that brands they can differentiate themselves and they can rise above the noise, which is by investing in the human connection of servicing your customers. Because as we've gone more and more digital, we have a tendency to feel like digital is the answer. And in this particular case, I think the human is the answer. Because the brands that I've interacted with where I've gotten a human on the tech chat when I've been having a problem with Kajabi or ConvertKit or something like that, and I get someone quickly and they're actually human and they can solve my problem, rather than let me going through a 15-minute chat with an AI bot before they connect me with a human, because I actually have to talk to a human to get the freaking problem solved. That is, that exercise in frustration is, if you can avoid that for your brand, you are going to win.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
Agreed.
And my take on that is I would equate it to how the automated personalization that way there is today for with Amazon and Netflix and all, right? So what I feel is that of course, like I think everybody has been frustrated with AI agents trying to solve your query when clearly they don't have the context, they don't have the answers, right? And I think that is the point where companies need to realize where the human intervention is needed. They are still not able to identify which queries deserve a human intervention as opposed to which that can be answered by an AI robot, right? If you are asking like a how-to question, for example, how to do this, a chatbot can take over, but then those questions are not always like black and white, right? So in those cases wherein you really need a resolution, you just don't need a process but actually a resolution. Companies need to be able to understand that their AI need to be that good that it understands the context behind those questions and be able to like you decide like which it cannot be like an either or scenario. It has to be, they have to coexist, and company need to be better at deciding which needs to forefront which conversation.
I just think that if phone trees are any indication of how well companies are going to do in the ability to make a chatbot work appropriately, then we're all kind of screwed because because we've had phone trees for 25 years and I still can't get through Citibank to a person unless I say agent like 50 times,
That's a great point. That's a great point.
you know?
Wow, that's a great point. I didn't think about that. And so, but we know with the advancements of AI, things are naturally going to get smarter, better, more context is going to be considered, and so on. So, do you think if there was more context included as AI advances, it would be a little bit easier for you to adopt? or are you flat out just you want that human to human interaction?
You know where I stand.
Got it. You're standing on
So
it.
I think
I hear you.
I think additional context would be definitely helpful in adopting AI like a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Yeah, and
what
I'm the gray hair in the room, so I'm certainly not a Luddite, right? That's obvious. But it's like really when it comes down to it, customer service is customer service. And that is where the heart and soul of a brand gets transferred from the corporate or company representative to the customer. And that's where a human bond is made. And if you can succeed in making that human bond as a brand, you can pass that down from literally generation to generation. Were you a Tide family? Were you a Gain family? Did your mom use Ivory soap? And then, when you were a kid, you started buying Ivory soap for your kids or Johnson, and Johnson baby oil or whatever that is. It's like if you can make that connection and instill the ethos of your brand into your customer, why would you ever leave that to a chatbot? That's all I can say.
Amen. All right. Listen, everyone at home, don't be shy. We want you to contribute to this conversation as well. Leave your comments with your thoughts. Are you loving the personalized shopping experiences, or do you miss the days when your inbox wasn't quite so personal? Right. Let's get this conversation going. Would love to engage with you guys in the comment section. All right, we're going to move on. And in this next segment, we're going to talk about tools you cannot live without. I want each one of you to please share a tool that you cannot live without and how you apply these tools to your personal or professional life. It could be a tool, it could be an app, it could be a process, a tactic. It could be anything you want. Who wants to go first?
Okay,
Anand, you want to go?
I can go.
All right.
So yeah, I mean, I've already mentioned that Clay is one tool that I cannot live without, and the reason I depend so heavily on that is because a lot of that anonymous data that is coming in, the non-enriched data that is coming in, I want to build that context for my prospects, for my users, right? Clay helps me build that context, and I use that in my outreach, in my outbound. So, and Clay does it like very seamlessly. So that is one tool. And the second I would say is Notion, because everything that I work on, everything that I do on a day-to-day basis lies on Notion. So everything that I need, like if I can just go there and quickly, I can just pull it out and get whatever I need from there. So it's like the go-to productivity or document for me. And the third tool that I've recently discovered, which is saving me hours of work every week, is a new tool called Whisper Flow. It's basically like a audio diction tool. So you dictate whatever you want to write, and be it email, be it Slack, be it WhatsApp, everywhere, it will just translate that for you, and it does an amazing job. Like, I come from a very different dialect, and it does a great job for me. People who are from a like native English background, I'm pretty sure that it will do a much more amazing job for them, and it's great, not really costly at all. And yeah, as I said, like, it's helping me craft my emails in like 2 minutes, as opposed to I would have taken like 15-20 minutes to write that thing, like, press those keys. And I don't want to do that like day in, day out, right? So yeah, that Whisper Flow is something I would definitely recommend people to try it out.
That makes sense. What about you, Philip?
I rely on a lot of tools, obviously, but two of them that I think that are most important for me anyway. Number one is Kajabi, because Kajabi houses my courses. It houses my individual, hourly coaching and consulting products that people can go and purchase on there. It houses my landing pages for my my community, my subscription community, and then takes people through a funnel and delivery of emails following interest in those particular products. And it's all very integrated and all works well with itself. And so Kajabi's, I'm a big convert of Kajabi. And then the other one I mentioned earlier in the podcast, which is TubeBuddy, which is a Chrome plugin or a browser plugin for YouTube. And it helps you optimize your YouTube videos, both from your keywords to your cards to your end screens to even your A/B testing your thumbnails, doing AI research on your titles and your competitive research as well. So it's super, super handy tool. If you really want to optimize your YouTube videos for viewership and for conversion, I highly recommend TubeBuddy.
Awesome.
I'm gonna recommend that to my team. We are just starting YouTube SEO from next week onwards. So thanks for that suggestion,
There you
Philip.
go. Awesome, awesome. And I think for me, it would be Upsurge CRM. It's essentially the backbone of our agency. It's so apropos when mentioning it on this funnel theme podcast. But ultimately, we pretty much run all of our sales and marketing communication through email, text, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook Messenger, so on and so forth. As well as we even have an AI, voice AI, that's able to answer calls and so on. And believe it or not, I want your opinion about it, Philip. Call into the office line there.
Give me the number. I'll check it out. I'll put it through
A-
its
a-
torture test.
absolutely, and send me an email. Let me know what you think. I want your honest opinion. But we have ran some tests, and it's really, 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 really smart. And so her name is Gina, and she'll be. I'm excited to meet you. So that would be my tool that I absolutely can't live without from an agency perspective. So now it's time. It's time to have your shameless plugs. You know, you have established your expertise here, and I'm sure people are excited at the opportunity to either work with you, understand what you have going on next, or even contact you. But let us know where people can find you and what you're currently up to.
Sure, I'll go. My name's Philip VanDusen, obviously. It's on the card right in front of me. But if you go to philipvandusen.com, that's my website, you can find anything from my YouTube to my newsletter to my membership subscription mastermind there. And so that's the best place to find me. If you want to find my content, go to YouTube under my name, Philip VanDusen. Learn anything you want to know about branding, strategy, design, or marketing.
Awesome. You're not?
Great. Yeah, so my full name is Anand Vatsya, and I'm very active on both LinkedIn and Twitter. Although I'm not so much of a content creator, so I'm just lurking around in the shadows, just reading content there. So, and of course, I do not even have like a lot of services that I offer. I mean, my full-time job takes a lot of blood, so I don't do like, outside work right now. But yes, I would suggest if you have like marketing use cases, if you're struggling with like marketing leads or sales closure rates, do check out Story Lane. That is a real handy tool, a very new phenomena that has taken place in the past 2 or 3 years.
Awesome, awesome. And I'm your host, Juntae DeLane, founder at Digital DeLane, a full service digital marketing firm where we help bring new brands, campaigns, and ideas to life. Thank you for tuning into this episode of The Brand Behavior. We hope you've gained valuable insights into building and optimizing marketing funnels. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and visit our website at digitaldelane.com/podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and share it with your network. Until next time, keep optimizing those funnels and driving those conversions. Bye for now.
Thank you.